Alrighty, the next step is going to be to work with this coral here. Okay, so when this was officially first made, there was not this object select tool. This object selection tool is super cool. I'm serious. It's brand new. It's totally awesome. And when I choose this object selection tool, we know that working off of color, we can just draw a box around this and Photoshop's going to find the edges. But you can see that it still didn't get rid of all of that white. Okay, but it did a great job, and we didn't have to use a magnetic lasso tool. We didn't have to do one of those things. What is it that we want to get rid of right now? We want to get rid of the white. We want to get rid of the white in this little area. So underneath, inside, grouped with this object selection tool, you've got quick selection and magic wand. The quick selection tool we'll use when we get to the sand dollar, because if I hit Control D and I go to start selecting this, you're going to see that it may select more or less. So you can see like the edges here, it really just didn't get those edges very clearly, right? So I'm going to go ahead and hit Control D to deselect and go back and choose my object selection tool and do that again. Because that one's getting a little bit closer to the edge. You can see like it's getting more of that in here rather than the object selection tool, or the quick selection tool, sorry. But it got this white. So what I want to do is get rid of the white. So all three of these work on color: object selection tool, quick selection tool, and magic wand. The magic wand tool, what it does is it allows you to pick a specific pixel, one pixel, and then it will look at all the pixels around it and say, okay, how far away from this pixel's code and color can I move, right? So I'm going to hit Control D, and I want to show this before we do it with the object selection tool. So if I click on this coral, nothing selected, so Control D to deselect, and I click on it, you're going to see it's going to find quite a bit of the coral. What it's looking for is a tolerance of 32 pixel differences in colors above and below where you clicked. So I clicked, I'm going to zoom in here, on this beautiful peach right here. So what Photoshop is doing is up here at the top with my magic wand tool, you can see I have a tolerance of 32, which is the default tolerance. It's going to go 32 colors higher and lower than this peach pixel. And it's going to try and find those, and it's going to select them. So you can see like these are obviously too light compared to the pixel I selected. Okay. If I wanted to select more, so Control D, I wanted to select more variations, I can increase this number to like 100, click on a pixel, and it will find more of it. Okay. If I choose to choose 10, okay, and click on a pixel, you'll see it'll find far less. So when I chose 100, I think this is important because I wasn't really showing it very well. I'm going to click here. It's grabbing quite a bit of it, but if I go to like a darker color, it's grabbing different pieces. So it's important to note that when you increase that tolerance, though, it is adding more. Like I clicked a really light color that time, and look, I had selected a bunch of my whole screen. Okay, so sometimes you need to zoom in and out. But the default tolerance is 32. That tends to be what people work with. What I want to show this for is because I can use my object selection tool. So I have nothing selected. I hit Control D, nothing selected. I'm going to drag over this. It's going to grab as much of it as possible, but I can get rid of this white. So I can go and grab my magic wand tool. And instead of just being on here, I can hold Alt on my keyboard, go down to this white area. Notice it gets a little minus sign next to it, and remove the white areas from my selection. And now I have a pretty close selection of this coral. So when we talk about combining these selection tools, super important because some of them do different things than others, right? So now I can take my move tool and I can move my coral up to this area. I'm going to zoom in to make sure it's in the right spot, nudge it around as needed, because remember, the second you let go of it, you can't move it again without deleting the background. So Control D to deselect, and that is how you can use in conjunction an object selection tool and a magic wand tool together.